Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I just wanted to bring you a quick guide going over the spear and why it's so strong. I went from being mainly a rapier player on Legacy to switching to the spear on Fresh, and I've been loving it so far. I am currently on Rosa, so feel free to add me if you're over here. I do stream on Twitch from 10 p.m. till about 2 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday, and I'll leave a link to my Discord in the description down below, so feel free to join. And if you enjoy the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a good day. All right, starting off with the reason that you always will have a skewer spear in your group if you're doing any PvE content, and that is the Enfeebling Skewer perk. You always want this on the weapon, and it applies 48% weaken from one ability. It is the highest weaken applying ability in the game, just for one use, and it applies the weaken. It's really, really strong. And then usually you'll pair it with the Great Axe, which also has a AoE weaken, which is really, really good. All right, moving on to the other main abilities. So obviously you do have Skewer. So it's basically the most important thing to know about this is it's going to give you an empower, and it's going to apply a bleed to the target that you hit. So as long as you crit when you use Skewer, you're going to empower yourself. So that's why you're always going to start your combos with Skewer. And then the next more important ability is Perforate. So this is going to apply Rend to it applies Rend based on the number of hits, but also it applies even more Rend if the target is above 50% health. And this also will apply a weaken. So on top of your Skewer on your spear already applying a weaken, you get even more weaken plus Rend from the ability itself. And then usually you'll be running Sweep with it. This is just a really, really strong AoE CC ability. You knock them down, and then if you take the last point here, you'll actually do an auto at the end to stab the ground on top of them, and it actually does a lot of damage. And then the last ability, this usually you'll just switch to this for boss fights because Sweep is really, really dead against them. So usually you can just switch to this. This is just simply an AoE. It's not bad for mobbing. It's an AoE ability after all, but usually this is just your switch to for bosses. So this is going to be your normal skill tree overall for the spear. Quickly, I did want to look at some of the other points in the skill tree because there are some that are still pretty important. So if you look here, after you do your 2 light attack chain, you're going to get CDR, which is really good. Then you're going to get more CDR here. After dodging and you hit somebody, you'll get some. And then you'll get crit chance increase here. If they have a bleed on them, which usually you'll have Keenly Jagged on the spear. If not, you do have a bleed on the Skewer, so you'll basically always have a bleed on your main target that you're hitting. And then this one, it's every crit is going to increase the duration of all of your debuffs. So if you look at this one right here, you do 10% more damage to a target with a debuff. And they're always basically going to have 3. If you've hit them with Skewer, Perforate, they're going to have 3 with the Weaken, the Rend, and the Bleed. So you're always going to have 30% increase damage here, plus the extended duration of everything from your crits here. The one thing I do want to mention is if you are running, some of the higher level mutation stuff, and you're running with friends or something, and 2 of you are Skewer, if you have a bleeding sweep spear, one of you could always switch to that. There's no need to really have 2 skewers. Generally everybody's kind of hitting the same target, especially for bossing. But the bleeding, if you go bleeding sweep spear, it also has, it makes the bleed do quite a lot of damage. So that's just another option if, two people in your group like running spears. All right, next we're going to go over the attributes. So your normal attributes are going to be 350 strength, 50 intelligence, and then you're going to throw the rest of your points into dex. I know it sounds kind of weird because the dex does have, or the spear has main scaling with dex, but they both have basically the same damage, but the difference is most of your offhands are going to be strength. So it's better just to have that extra scaling with strength. Since the difference of, dex scaling versus strength scaling really it doesn't make any difference. It's basically the same damage. And then I'll show you the actual combo, how you're supposed to do it properly. So as you can see on screen, your normal ability rotation is going to be Skewer, dodge, light attack, dodge, perforate, dodge, sweep, and then you'll auto attack after sweep, obviously, to get your coup de grace proc. And then after that, all of your abilities are going to be reset and off cooldown. So you can literally just rotate that. Unless you're doing like higher end content, the mobs are going to be dead by the time you're done with that usually. But if you're doing like M3s and stuff, that's the way to get your CDRs to basically be infinite. If you just keep doing that, you're just going to keep rotating and rotating and rotating through that pattern. So that's going to be your highest damage output as well. Now I want to go over what perks you should be looking for on the spear and what offhands you should be running with it. So on the spear itself, now just because it's 725, one of the better ones you can get is the Hoplite. This is by no means BIS because Keenly Jagged, while it's still really good on the spear, it's kind of a waste because this only one person in your group can apply Keenly Jagged to the boss now. After the update, they changed it, so it's not the greatest. Abyss would be Infliction, Skewer, and then some form of attunement. If it's Anger Earth, you'd have Flame attunement and yada yada. but this one does just fine. If you get it from the raid, just throw skewer on it. If you're looking before that, something you could look for is something like this. These actually drop from Glacial Tarn, and these always have vicious and skewer on them. These are really, really good. So if you're running Tarn at an M2 or higher, these can drop for you, and that is a really good place to farm one of these. Like I said, Keeling Jagged's not as good as it was, but it's still really good to have on it. All right, moving on to the offhands. Most of the time, if you're the only spear in the group, you're always going to have GA, you know, unless you have a greatsword in the group that's also running it. Usually you're always going to have GA. And the only thing you really need on the Great Axe is Maelstrom. You don't really care about the other perks. This is a really good roll. Unfortunately, it was super low gear score, but not that big of a deal. But yeah, you always want Maelstrom just for more weakening on the whole group itself. If you, like I said, if you already have a Great Axe, you could look to something like the Warhammer. If you get a Sundering Shockwave on one, it's pretty good. You know, this is just used for more CC and more rend. If you have Shockwave, you're getting more rend. I wouldn't really go clear out if you're using Spear, because you don't want to, like, you know, that animation takes forever, and you don't really want to declump everybody. You know, usually that's like a tank thing. But yeah, the rend is good, and then if you use Armor Breaker as well, that's even more rend. And then for the final offhand I want to talk about is the hatchet. You know, if you're in a group, you already have a GA and you want to run something else, you can always look for the hatchet. While I usually use this more for boss fights, you know, just in case you're in tough fights in M3s and you need, you know, get out of jail free card with the Defy Death. Obviously, these perks are not that optimal. If I was going to change this, I would just put Keen Berserk on this, which I might actually do after this video. I'm not sure yet. But I would definitely put Keen Berserk on it. But you can always look to the hatchet for an offhand. The one thing I do want to talk about is people have talked about running the Sin with the spear, but you just don't need to. With this passive right here, the Sin does absolutely nothing for it. So you could look to something like Freya's, or if you already have the Sin upgraded, you can, but it's not like a requirement or anything. So don't worry about having to have Sin with this build. All right, I'm not going to dive too in depth on these skill trees, but I'm going to show you the skill trees for all three of these offhands. So here's the Warhammer. Next we have the Great Axe. And then finally we have the hatchet. Where is it at? Here it is. All right, finally, I just want to go over my build and kind of show you, you know, what endgame for spear will look like. So we are using the Toon Leather Pants artifact. This is by far and large the best artifact basically any build can use. You know, if you're DPS or healer, this is by far the best. Just the extra stats and everything you get from it's really, really good. Obviously, you can't put Enchanted Ward on this because it already has Elia version, so I chose to go Bleeding Sweep. Now, if you're looking for a spear perk, you can go Bleeding Sweep, Bleaching Cyclone, or Perforate, but I just choose, you know, I am DPS, so I just choose to do more damage versus the other two survivability perks. That's just my preference. And since you are in medium pants, you're going to want to make sure you have either medium boots, medium gloves, or medium helmet, and then the rest is going to be light. You're always going to have a light chest just because of the weight difference, and then your medium pants, and then you're going to have one medium piece out of these three. I always do boots just because it's light, 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 medium, medium, so it's pretty easy to remember. But that's just my preference. All right, next, I've already showed these, but moving on to the weapons. We'll start with the spear. Obviously, I said, you know, if you get the Hoplite one, just throw Skewer on it and you're good to go. For your Great Axe, you're always going to want to have Maelstrom. And then for your offhands, if you're running something else, if you get a Warhammer with Clear Out, or not Clear Out, sorry, Sundering Shockwave, that's pretty good. And then your Hatchet, you kind of just want to make sure if you're using the Hoplite one, try to put Keen Berserk on it. Like I said, I need to do that. I've just been lazy about it. Don't want to buy the Matrix. Obviously, I'm broke. But that's it for the weapons. Moving on to the Heartrune, I would always recommend the spear to be using vines. You know, it's your job to clump them. So you can clump them. You go in, you use vines, and then you can skewer, and you can go from there. You know what I mean? You can start off the whole combo with weakening and rending the whole group. So it's really, really strong. You can also look towards like Bile or the Fire Kick, depending on what your group already has. But I would basically always recommend using the Brutal Vines, and make sure you upgrade it, because if you don't upgrade it, you're not getting rend. You're only getting weaken. And finally, we can go over the jewelry. Obviously, your amulet is going to change depending on what you're doing. So the protection here is going to be whatever. I will say a lot of the dungeons just have really good amulets you can farm. The best one you can farm is Tempest when it's up, because it has health empowered plus a random roll. So I would recommend doing that. If it's up, it is mutated currently when this video is coming out, but do M2 or higher to get it, and you'll be good there. For the ring, you just want a thrust damage ring. You know, you can farm this. Or not farm it, but you can get it from the raid, or you can do the M2 or above Genesis, which is currently mutated right now as well, for the Soul Pollen, which I think I have right down here. Soul Pollen. It comes with thrust damage and leeching, and you want to roll hardy as a random, so that's pretty good. And then for the earring, you know, if Savage Divide is ever mutated AGS, I would love to have the Endless Thirst here because it already has Empowering Toast. And yeah, but if you had that earring, you would want to put Refreshing Toast on the Endless Thirst. Obviously, we don't have it yet. It'll be mutated someday, though. All right, if you made it this far in the video, I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope this guide can serve as a good starting point for you and help you throughout your journeys in Aeternum. But if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Clicking those buttons afterwards does help push the video to other people, and it'd be greatly appreciated. But yeah, I hope you have a good day, and yeah, bye-bye.